this is a good crowd. I like it. So when you all move here, it'll be like this every week. That'll be awesome. Woo! Sukkot.
Yes.
Thank you, Father, for the weather too. In Yeshua's name.
Yeah.
We are here to observe Sukkot. Where do we always go with the feast?
Leviticus 23.
Leviticus 23. We're going to look at why we're doing this on this last day of Sukkot, the last of the 7 days. Let's go to Leviticus 23. We're going to start in verse 33. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and said, and I get people on YouTube that say, what Bible are you using? I want that Bible. No, actually what my Bible says is, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying. And then I had somebody else ask me, yeah, it's Leviticus 23:33. Somebody else asked me, why do you use all those Hebrew words? Because this was originally written in Hebrew, and when you know the Hebrew word, and I don't know a whole bunch of them, but it brings more meaning to what we're reading. And so that's why we do it. Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
On the first day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh the Lord. On the 8th day, that's tomorrow, shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. So that's why, because Yah tells us to. And you can just skip down a little bit more, Leviticus 23, verse 41. And ye shall keep the feast unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. And actually that feast, that's King James feast, it's Moedim, it's appointed time. See, it's not really a feast like we think of it. You know, we're going to have a big table with turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and stuff like that. Not that we can't do that, but that's not what it means. It's an appointed time unto Yahweh. And ye shall keep the feast, the Moedim, unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever. In your generations, you shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths. 43. So your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. I am the Lord thy God. And so it's because he told us to, but the reason he told us to is so that we remember that he brought Israel, us, out of the land of bondage, Egypt, and made us dwell in booths. They left their houses and they had to live in tents. And so to break it down, the first reason and the given reason here in Leviticus 23 is so that we remember and so that we know. We remember that he brought us out, and we know that he is Yahweh our Elohim, the Lord our God. That's why we do it. Obedience to that. But there's another reason that we keep Sukkot, and that reason is practice. Practice for what? Anybody know? Second Exodus. Awesome. So, in the first Exodus, which we observe and we think about and we commemorate when we're doing Passover, that's when all the Israelites fled Egypt. They were in bondage, they were slaves, and they flee Egypt. How many people here have seen the movie The Ten Commandments with Chuck Heston? So that kind of sums it up, right? So everybody fled Egypt at that time. And so that word fled, on the one hand, they were led out of Egypt, right? They were led with the mighty hand and the outstretched arm of Yah that brought them out, and he used Moses, to do that, right? He called on Moses, lead my people out of here. We just sang about that. But on the other hand, they fled for their lives. As they're leaving at the last minute, Pharaoh's like, oh, heck no. And he sends the chariots after them, right? So they're running from the chariots. They're running from an army that is pursuing them. They're running from enemy. Enemy is chasing them as they're running. And this is in the first Exodus. And you know, this time of year, all over the land, Torah observant Hebrew roots, Israelite, Messianic, whatever people are all gathered together in various kind of forms to observe Sukkot together. And it's always during this time that everyone gets together and go, man, this is awesome. This is great. We should live like this all the time because we're living together. We're in close proximity. We're sharing, we're breaking bread together. We're sharing meals. We're getting into impromptu study of the word of Yah. We're praying, we're worshiping. And it's like, man, this is what it's going to be like, because the first Sukkot was when he brought us out of Mitzrayim and had us dwell in booths. And so we're commemorating that. And so we're thinking, to the extent that we think about it at all, the second Exodus, yeah, that's what it's going to be like. It's all going to be grand and it's all going to be good. But man, that is sugarcoating the first Exodus a lot. Because think about the people in the first Exodus. They were suffering from fatigue. Suffering is the word. They were suffering from fatigue. They were suffering from thirst. What, did you bring us out here so we could, die of thirst? They were suffering from hunger. There's nothing to eat. Oh, I wish we had the leeks and the stuff of Egypt that we could go back to. And see, we all sit here and think that wouldn't be us. That was those weak Israelites that all pined away for a life of slavery and bondage where everything was given to them. And boy, I could go on a tangent on that right now, of the amount of people living in this country today that are really living a life of bondage and working for slave wages, and they're like, everything is given to me, and if I don't do this thing, if I don't stay here in spiritual Mitzrayim, I won't have anything to eat or drink or live, and I'll have to go live in a booth. I mean, we could go there, but I did a little bit. So they had those enemies of hunger and thirst. They had the enemies of being attacked. As they're walking around the desert, they're constantly being attacked. They were exposed to the elements. There was rebellion in their own camp. They turned on each other. They killed each other. These are the people that Yah saves, says, you are my children, brings them out, and then they start killing each other. And they start saying, I'm not following him. I'm not following him. You can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. And then, we had that big sinkhole with Korah. And a lot of this that took place during the Exodus, the first Exodus, was not just Yah delivering his people. There was a lot of Yah punishing his people during that Exodus and getting them squared away. How many men came out of Egypt? How many Israelite men? 600,000 men came out of Mitzrayim when Yah said, come on out of there. How many made it to the promised land? 2! I can't wait for Exodus. Can you? Second Exodus? I mean, those aren't good odds for what happened. And people overlook all that. And so, yes, they fled for their lives. And it brings to mind, because I have watched way too many movies in my life. How many people have seen, what is the Monty Python movie, the main one?
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
Blasphemous. I can't believe a pastor is bringing that up. I saw it. There's a funny scene in there where they go, run away, right? Because they're fleeing from a rabbit with great gnashing teeth. But they're running away, and that's what the Israelites are doing, right? They're running away. They're being led, like I said, on the one hand, they're being led by Yah, but on the other hand, they're running away. And I got to tell you, as a former infantry officer, as a former SF trooper, the concept of running away, and I know all about Mao and when to attack and push and retreat, but the concept of running away is just like distasteful to me in the extreme. It's like, I ain't running away. But the Israelites ran away. It just doesn't sit well with me. But still, remember back before the Exodus, long before the Exodus, the first Exodus, Israel's seed, the boys, the men of Israel, the 12 that became the 12 tribes, his sons, there's a famine in the land, and where did they flee to? Egypt. Mitzrayim. They fled from where they were to the flesh pots of Egypt where they could eat. And then things go on, history continues, they become slaves. They don't like them anymore in Egypt, and then they flee Egypt. So they fled to Egypt, they flee Egypt, they get away, they go to the promised land. Life progresses. I'm painting with a really broad brush here. Do you all remember when Yeshua was little and Herod was killing all the boys because he was led by Satan to try and wipe out Yeshua before he could do his work? Where did his parents take him and flee to?
Egypt.
They fled back to Egypt. Boy, there's a whole sermon in there, too. Fleeing to and from Egypt. But there was fleeing going on, if you will. We are Yah's chosen. Sometimes we need to grab onto that. When we're having a bad day, we need to realize that we are the chosen of Yah. We are Israel. And we're going to flee again. We are going to flee again. Get ready to run away. We're going to get into that a little bit. When we first started doing the book of Revelation, I asked y'all, not the visitors unless you were following along, to read Matthew 24. Let's go to Matthew 24. Matthew chapter 24. I think I have a ribbon in there. We're going to flee again. Matthew 24, verse 1. We're going to read a lot of it. And Jesus, Yeshua, went out and he departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that is not thrown down. It's Matthew 24. How many people know what Yeshua's job was probably before he became his 3-year ministry, not Sister Kate?
Carpenter.
He's a carpenter, right? And why? Because his father was a carpenter, and you follow in the I know 2 of you guys got it right away. You follow in the foot of your father. And so I did a study one time because what I wanted to do, I'm building my own house. I mean, I get help, but I'm working on my own house and I'm doing these things, and I'm like, some days it's hard, man. Swinging a hammer and cutting with a saw, and it's like my arms are getting tired. And it's one of the themes that I touch on frequently. Yeshua, Jesus, was not some little soft-handed, girly man. And so I wanted to know what kind of carpentry tools were in use in Israel 2,000 years ago. So I started a big research on that. And this is what I came upon. What's the word, brother? Because you just used it.
Tecton.
Tecton? So the Greek word for carpenter is tecton, and it doesn't mean carpenter. It doesn't mean somebody in our mind that works with wood. It means a craftsman, and in the day there were 2 kinds of craftsmen. There were craftsmen who worked with wood, and there were craftsmen who worked with stone. And do you know what most of the houses and everything in Israel was built out of back then? Stone. I'm telling you, I am convinced Yeshua was a stonemason. That's what he was. And if you look at all most of his examples that he uses, he talks about things that stonemasons talk about. The good foundation that you want to build your house on so it doesn't flow away. That's a stonemason thing, right? We're digging a ditch and filling it with rocks and then we're going up. I'm digressing there, but here he's looking at these rocks and he's going, check those rocks out, because he appreciates the fine quality workmanship. And he goes, not one of those is going to be standing on another one. They're going to be thrown down. Verse 3, and he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall the sign of thy coming in the end of the world? That's a pretty good question, I think, why you have Yeshua sitting there. What are the signs when you're coming, and what's the end of the world? When's that going to be? And Yeshua answered and he said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. There's a whole teaching there we did before. I'm not going to go over that right now. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, that ye be not troubled. And these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So nation shall rise against nation is ethnos against ethnos. It's tribe against tribe. It could be race war, if you will. Kingdom or it could be internal strife within a country, a nation as we call it today. And then kingdom against kingdom is what we call a country today fighting another country. Right now in the world, there are massive riots going on. Cities are burning in like 5 different places, 5 different countries: Lebanon, Chile, Hong Kong, and a couple more. And it's like they're all over kind of silly things. I'm telling you, the enemy is behind that. And it's starting to boil, and nation is going against nation. And soon, well, the Turks are going after the Kurds right now. Kingdom is going against kingdom. This stuff is starting to boil. So he's given these signs, and these are the beginnings of sorrows or birth pangs. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations, all people, for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. He's not talking about the Gentiles. He's talking about us. Many shall hate one another and betray one another. And again, we tell ourselves that's them, not me. I'm telling you, you need to read this stuff and go, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to do that with the help of Yah. But it's going to happen with some people. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. That's already happening. But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, all peoples, and then shall the end come. And it has only been recently that the ability for this word to be preached throughout the world, for this word to go forth on the internet and in Bibles and things like that has happened. In the scheme of human history, it's only been recently. Here's why we're here. When ye shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso reads, let him understand. Then let him which be in Judea flee to the mountains. He's talking about us, his people. If you're here at that time and you're in Judea and you see these things taking place, you need to get out of there. You need to flee. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. You don't have time to pack up your house. You got to go. Go, go, go. It's why we have bug-out bags, by the way. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Scoot. And woe unto them that are with child, and that give suck in those days. But pray that, here it is again, that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. See, here's Yeshua saying you're going to flee. You are going to flee. Pray it's not in winter. Pray it's not on Shabbat, so you have a day off to rest. But he didn't say it's not going to be on Shabbat. He said pray it's not on Shabbat. But he's telling us we are going to have to flee at some point, we as a people. For then shall be great tribulation, such as there was not since the beginning of the world this time, nor now shall ever be. And except that those days are shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. And then if any man come and say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they should deceive even the elect. We who remain when all this is happening are going to flee. You know, flee or die. It's going to happen. And we need to know as a people, we need to be comfortable as a people to do something as simple as dwelling in booths, dwelling in tents, dwelling in temporary structures that we can take with us when we flee. Camping. Why? Because it's not going to be like we're fleeing to a Holiday Inn or a Sheraton. We're going to be in the wilderness. We're going there next. There's a lot of people all over this country who gather together this time of year, and they have these wonderful, beautiful, uplifting services for a week in a hotel ballroom where they're all staying in the hotel. Or cabins, or, whatever. And a big part of Sukkot is getting us ready to live out there. And so we need to take advantage of that when the Father gives it to us and says, hey, y'all need to get ready to live out there. Because he loves us and he cares about us and he doesn't want us to needlessly suffer. We'll be fleeing to the wilderness. Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. Let's start in verse 1. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. We're covering Revelation right now in our regular Shabbat services, and we're not here yet. And so I'm not going to break that down into a big breakdown right now. It's not what today's sermon's on, other than to tell you that the woman, this is metaphorical here, and the woman is representing the church. She's also representing the church, and then the baby is Yeshua, and it kind of flows back and forth because it's a dream state thing. And the dragon that's coming is who? Satan, right? So this is what's going on. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and he did cast them down to earth. That's a third of the angels he led away. And the dragon stood before the woman, which is ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as he was born. And Satan tried that so many times throughout history to stop what Yeshua's work on the stake was going to be, from the time he tried to tempt Eve to what we talked about earlier, Herod trying to kill all the boys, and there were other things that he tried to do, and that was all brought on by Satan. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Elohim and to his throne. So that's clearly when Yeshua died and rose again. Now, this is why we're here, verse 6. And the woman, which is now, we're fast-forwarding in time, the church, fled to the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of Elohim, that they should feed her there for 1,260 years. So she flees to the Sheraton. She flees to a really cool, comfortable place with all the amenities. No, she flees to the wilderness. And the wilderness shows that there's not a lot of people there. That's why she's fleeing there. And she, metaphorically, again, being the church. But it says that it was a place prepared for her by Yah. So see, Yah is having it prepared, this place in the wilderness, for his people, the church, the woman, to come to in the wilderness. How do you think he's going to do that? Do you think he's going to make a little city or a little camp that has all the amenities and just drop it right down in the wilderness at the appropriate time like a UFO? No. He's going to use people to do that. He's going to use people to help prepare that place in the wilderness for the church to flee to. And I submit to you that's a big part of what some of us here are doing right now, is trying to get ready to receive the church. And some of us don't even realize that we're being guided by Almighty Yah to do that, but it's happening nonetheless because his will not be thwarted. But they're going to the wilderness. Let's keep going. Verse 7. And there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against it and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was there a place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he treated the woman nicely. He gave her gifts.
No, it persecuted.
He persecuted the woman, the church, which had brought forth the man-child. And the woman, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. So fly, flee. She's fleeing into, again, the wilderness. We all need to get more comfortable being in the wilderness. It's amazing the number of people who come to Shofar Mountain in the summertime and get freaked out by bugs. Of course, I was just over there and a caterpillar was on my arm and I kind of freaked out. Yeah! But I'm still here and I'm not like running away. Into her place where she was nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away in the flood. We'll get to that when we get to that. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed the flood by which the dragon cast out his mouth. So the earth helped the woman. This isn't Gaia. This isn't the earth goddess. But the earth, the land, the wilderness has an effect that stops the enemy from coming. And being able to exist in that wilderness takes time and practice. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and he went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Now see, if the dragon is making war with the remnant of her seed, what are they doing? They're fighting. People be dying and stuff. It's gonna happen. It's written in the Word. It's gonna happen. This is not gonna be a let's hold hands and do this Eastern European hora dance and think that we're good Israelites because of it, and it's a nice clean environment that we're living in. That's not what Sukkot's about. It's about getting ready, him getting his people ready for what's coming. Flee, fled, fly, flight. These are the words that we read. Typically, when one does those things, one departs from where one is and goes somewhere else in haste. Don't come down off your rooftop and go into your house. Get going. You got to go. You got to flee. You got to go. Which is why one of the things I try to convince you Shofarians to do is everyday carry. And I beat you up about it a little bit, and I make fun of you about it a little bit, and I push and I prod and I cajole and I say good job, and I give myself garbage when I forget something. But if you're a Shofarian, you need 4 things on you all the time. You need a handgun, you need a reload, you need a knife, and you need a lighter. And you need those things all the time. That's your EDC. Because if you have to get up right now and flee out there and you got people pursuing you and persecuting you with those 4 things and a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of skill, you can make it. And maybe the reason you're going to make it is because you got to help somebody else who's coming behind you. And this is just a start point for the Shofarians. But man, I really want you guys carrying a handgun, a reload, a knife, and a lighter 24/7. And if you think you can't, if you think you have a problem with that, if you want to discuss something, we can do that offline and I can help you. We can make this happen. I don't care if you're a nurse in tight-fitting scrubs and it's like it's against law or it's against policy to have a firearm there. How do I do this, PJ? I can help you out with some ideas. So, EDC, because we have to flee in haste. Somebody told me recently this week, and they were right, they observed that other people, maybe some of y'all who are visiting right now, think the Shofarians are too hard. They're hard. They're not just hard physically by putting up with this. They're hard mentally, and they're tough, and they're not, well, bless you, brother, I'm so glad you could come. We're not like that. We're not those people. There's probably a reason for it. I'm not saying those people are wrong. I'm not saying anything against those people. I'm saying what we are. I think we are hard. And I think the Father has brought hard people together because of the task we have set ahead of us that a lot of us don't even know yet that we're going to have to do. And it takes hard people to do that, but that's for the greater glory of the kingdom. And so we're hard. And one of the first things is people come here and they're like, why are all these people carrying guns in church? They're hard. They're scary. I'm not afraid of anybody here. I don't think anybody's afraid of me. EDC, everyday carry. Do you know Yeshua designated EDC? Yeshua told his people, I want you to carry stuff. And he had an SOP. with his people, a standard operating procedure, and he modified it as conditions changed. Because SOPs aren't written in granite, you can modify it when the situation changes. And we're going to look at that a little bit right now. Let's go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. Verse 1. After these things, the Lord appointed other 70 also, and he sent them 2 by 2 before his face into every city and place, whither he himself would come. And therefore he said unto them, this is Yeshua, the harvest is truly great, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into his harvest. So he's sending these men out in twos, in pairs, that makes sense. And he's sending them out to spread the word. And he says, go your ways, behold, I send you forth as lambs among wolves. It's a scary world out there. There's bad guys, there's thieves, there's brigands, there's highwaymen. I know. I'm sending you out as lambs, unarmed. Well, you're going to find that out here in a second. Out amongst the wolves. Yes, I am doing this thing. I don't want you to carry a purse. I don't want you to carry money, scrip, nor shoes. Because, see, shoes had a way of wearing out then. These sandals, they weren't like Keens. They could pop at any time. And so if you're going on a long journey on foot, you carry an extra pair in your backpack so that when it breaks, you can put another pair on, keep walking, fix the one that broke tonight while we're sitting around a fire. No, I don't want you to do that. And don't stop and tarry. It says salute no man, by the way, but it means don't stop and be talking. You got a mission. Get there and spread the word. And whatsoever house you enter, first say, shalom unto this house. Peace unto this house. We're going somewhere. And if the Son of Peace be there, your peace shall rest upon you. And if not, it shall turn to you again. And in the same house remain, eating and drinking such things as they give, for the laborer is worthy of his hire. Go not from house to house, meaning don't go begging from house to house. Go into the first house that says, yes, you can stay here. Hey, we'll add some water to the soup, and you can have some soup with us. And into whatsoever city you enter, and they receive you, eat such things as are set before you, and heal the sick that are therein, and say unto them, the kingdom of Elohim is come nigh unto you. 2 more verses. But in whatsoever city you enter and they receive you not, go your ways out into the streets of the same and say, even the very dust of your city which cleaves unto us, we wipe off against you, off our feet. Notwithstanding, be ye sure of this, that the kingdom of God is nigh unto you. But I say unto you that it shall be more tolerable in that day for Sodom than for that city. You're going out there into a big, dangerous, cruel world. I want you to go in pairs. I want you to take nothing. I want you to go needing what other people bestow upon you. And the reason he's telling them this is a couple reasons. One is, I want you on this important mission that you're going on to trust Yah. I want you to trust in him. We used to say Jehovah Jireh, Yahweh Yireh. God provides. I need you to have that trust if you're going to go spend the time doing this work. And here's the other thing. You're going to know who to preach the word to. You're going to know who to hang out with because they will extend you support. They will say, yes, come into my home. Here's some food. Yes, I know you need a new pair of shoes. Here, I got a spare pair. Put these on. They're a little big, but they'll work. You know, he's telling them that this is how you will identify who I want the message to go to. The people who are cool to you. Other than that, they just go to a city, maybe stand on a corner, start screaming at people. That's not going to be effective. And so he tells them this, and unfortunately, I have met slackers in my life who pose as some kind of religious missionary, and this is what they use. You have to feed me. I'm here. Feed me. I'm spreading the word of God. And many cases, unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. They're just freeloaders that don't want to work. Did Paul work? Mm-hmm. Paul worked. Paul even said, I don't have to work. You guys could support me. Your church, I come up, I set up your church, I come by, you guys could pay me again. He goes, no, I got a tent making business, right? And so he's going to work. But in this case, at this time, Yeshua is in fact sending them out with no EDC, if you will. That changes though. Go to verse 35. Same chapter, Luke 10. Times changed, SOP gets modified. Luke. Oh, we're going to Luke 22, verse 35. I'm sorry. Go to Luke 22. I'm looking at that. That makes sense. Luke 22, 35. And he said unto them, Yeshua said unto them, when I sent you without purse, we just read about that, and scrip and shoes, when I sent you out there with nothing, did you lack anything? Were you wanting for anything while you were on this mission? And they said, not a thing. And then he said unto them, but now, he that has a purse, go ahead and take it. And likewise his money and his scrip. And him that has no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. Sword. Boy, I've seen Christians try to play with this verse. What he really meant was a little pocket knife so they could trim their toenails or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a sword. What's a sword designed to do? Kill people. That's what it's designed to do. And the sword of that day, I submit, is the Glock of today, the handgun of today. It is meant for close interpersonal distances, to defend yourself, to say, get away from me, and to do the deed, if you have to, with that weapon. And he tells them, if you don't have a sword, sell your coat. And your coat, Sister Kate, if it was colder here, would be wearing a cloak. She has a cloak. They had these heavy blanket things that they'd wear. That's what they slept in at night. So it's like your sleeping bag at night when you're out on the road. If you don't have a sword, sell that and get one. You need a sword. And so the EDC was modified. Not only did they carry swords, we can read later, and we're not going there, it's in chapter or verse 50 of here. But when Yeshua is confronted in the Garden of Gethsemane, what does Peter do? Poof! And cuts off a guy's ear. Peter was packing heat, and Peter was willing to use it to defend Yeshua. He's like, whoop, he swung at his head. He wasn't like, I'm going to do a perfect cut, just cut off his ear. He was trying to take that guy's head off who was trying to take his master, Yeshua. Now, what did Yeshua say? Put that sword back in its place. Put that sword back in its scabbard, because he needed to be taken. And he knew that. There was a bigger thing. But Yeshua did not say, Peter, what are you doing carrying a gun? Throw that on the ground. Don't touch it. He said, no, reholster that Glock, brother.
Amen.
Put it back in the scabbard. You may need it later. That's the implication. And so there was an EDC for his people. And so, bringing this around again, we Israelites, we Shofarians, subset I think, we do what we do. We act like we act. We, in this case, are hard like we're hard. But in this case, I'm talking about Sukkot. Number one, because it's commanded. We're commanded to keep Sukkot. That's pretty simple. How many people here have children? Have you ever uttered the words, because I said so?
Amen.
It works. Sometimes I don't have time to go through this whole thing, because I said so. Roger that, sir. All right? He said so. That's what we're doing, guys. And so it's commanded, but it's because he loves us and he cares for us and he wants us to be ready for what's coming. And so he gives us opportunities to practice it. How many people here learned some technique or some piece of gear that is like, this will make my life easier when I'm camping this week? I did. I was just talking to Brother Cody about hip hollows and shoulder hollows, about how when you do that on the ground, it makes it more comfortable to sleep. And you figured that out all on your own. And you figured it out because you're doing Sukkot. So now the next time, if we have to do it for real, you'll get a better night's sleep. So when you got to go do guard duty against the Amalekites or something, you're well rested. And see, that's because the Father provided us a way to practice. He wants us ready. He wants us prepared. He wants us prepared for what's coming, and he wants us able to deal with it. See, that's the thing. I get so many people on the internet, and I've heard it in person, but not as much. I think they're afraid to tell me. Well, Jesus will provide. That's all I need. I'm not taking anything from that. The Father will provide us with every needful thing. But people use that as an excuse not to do what they're supposed to do. Not to take the steps with the good sense that the good Lord gave us to do things. He wants us able to act. And so the first reason that we do Sukkot, I want to go back there and read it exactly. Leviticus 23:43. that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel, this is Yah speaking, to dwell in booths and tents and structures when I brought, when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So I want you to remember what I did, and I want you to know who I am. That's the first reason that we do it. However, that first reason, so that we remember what he did, it's going away. That's why we do it now. That's why we do it today, so we remember how great is our God. So we remember that, but that reason is going away. We are not going, careful of that camera, we are not going to remember the Exodus from Mitzrayim, from Egypt. We're going to forget it as a people. And we're going to forget it when we participate in the second or greater Exodus. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 16. Are you guys there yet? I am. I had a piece of paper there. You guys need to get faster. You know, it took me a while going to church before I figured out that's what pastors did. I just couldn't believe how fast they open up their Bible. Pow, bam. It's like, how do you do that? Now I know. Post-it notes. All right, Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 14. Listen to this. Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh. All right, so if he says it, it's true. That it shall no more be said, Yahweh lives that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, Mitzrayim. But that instead, they're going to say, Yahweh lives that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he has driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave them unto their fathers. We're not going to remember that first Exodus when he brought us out of Mitzrayim. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what he just did when he brought us from everywhere that Israel is currently scattered back into our rightful homeland, Israel, which I am not talking about the little nation-state sliver down there in the Middle East. It's much bigger than that. This is not going to be a second Exodus sermon. However, we're going to look at one more part just to take it home. Go to Isaiah chapter 11. Go back a little bit. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11. 11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people which shall be left. How big's a remnant? It's small.
Small.
How big are we compared to the mainline churches in this country? We're small. From Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Oh, I'm going to 16. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, so the two houses are coming together, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim, and they shall flee upon the shoulders of the Philistines towards the west. They shall spoil them at the east together, and they shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And all of this is going to be done through warfare and fighting. None of this is just going to be, It's another sermon. And Yahweh shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind he shall shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. So again, reminiscent of the first time. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people which shall be left from Assyria, like it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Mitzrayim. And there is much more to this second Exodus. We're not going into that today, other than to tell you it's coming again. There's a second Exodus for Yah's people in the future, even though it's not talked about a whole lot. And this should serve to illustrate the second reason we're told to participate in Sukkot, and that's preparation. It's to get ready for this time, for a time such as this, which I submit could be in our future. It looks like that to me, that the world's shaping up like that. You are here now. right here for a reason. Y'all are watching on YouTube right now for a reason. The Father made me the pastor of this little congregation for a reason. It's a strange reason. When Sister Kate and I were talking about it years ago, it's like, I am a Green Beret. Why am I going to be a pastor? There's a reason. There's a reason that he does everything. He chose me to pastor these saints in this place at this time. There's a reason for that. And so honestly, it kind of brings me back to the EDC. Doing a simple thing like carrying 4 things on your person all the time, that is really basic stuff. And if you want to hear the longer reasons and whys and wherefores behind it, we can have that discussion later. But we have other places to go. We have other things to learn. I have more to teach you just from my past that the Father put me in this position. But we got to start somewhere and go. All of this here at Sukkot, the reason we're doing Sukkot is because of obedience to him and preparation for what's coming. Hallelujah that he chose us for what's coming. Hallelujah that he wants us prepared for what's coming and doesn't just come out of the sky with a thunderbolt and make our lives miserable. It's not going to be that miserable if we are obedient. Obedience brings blessings. And if we prepare. And that's what he's trying to get us to do. That's why we do Sukkot. Let's pray.